Hi, everyone. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Tamoya, how you doing?
Good, good. How are you spending your off season so far?
Well, October, I don't do very much because the Angels did not make the playoffs, and the Angels don't really make any moves while the playoffs are going on. So there's really not too much that happens in October. November is when it really starts. There'll be free agent signings and trades, and they'll be hiring and firing people, and all that kind of stuff is going to happen. So that's going to get going very shortly.
What do you make of Ohtani receiving these awards lately?
I mean, it's no surprise. He obviously had a fantastic year, historic season. I think he's pretty clearly the most valuable player, and he'll win that actual award on November 18th is when that's going to be announced. I'm assuming he's going to win. I don't have any inside information. All these other things I think were just to be expected just because of the kind of year he had.
So it would be a bigger story if he doesn't win on November 18th, the MVP.
Yeah, I would be shocked if he does not win the MVP.
What are your thoughts on this year's playoffs and the World Series?
I mean, it was interesting. You like to see a team like the Braves that hasn't won in a long time. It's nice to see them win. They played really well. I think the one thing everybody was talking about in the playoffs that we kind of changed, the way starting pitchers were used has been changing a lot, over the last 10 years. And it really got extreme this year where starting pitchers were getting knocked out really early. A lot of people don't like that. It does make the games take a little longer. I think it would be nice to see the starters go deeper, but at the end of the day, it's still 27 outs, and your pitchers have got to get it. So if it takes 5 different pitchers or 2 different pitchers, you're still watching the same game. So I don't think it should bother people too much.
These teams using relievers, more relievers, in the game. Does this say anything about how the games has changed over the past several years?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that it's the analytics have led people to believe that your reliever is going to be better than your starter because the other team hasn't seen him. He can, in many cases, be throwing harder. But I think the other side to that is that the starters are better pitchers than the relievers to begin with. That's why they're starters, and that's why the relievers became relievers. So I think you can certainly make a case that maybe it's wrong, but these teams have spent a lot more time researching it than I have. So you just have to go with the fact that they think that what they think is best. You kind of got to give them the benefit of the doubt.
I think few people anticipated that the World Series will be between the Astros and the Braves. What does this say about the playoffs?
Well, I mean, there's no question that the playoffs are much more random than the regular season. That's just obvious. If you are playing 162 games, it's going to be a different test of your team than if you're playing, the first 1 to 3 wins or 4 wins, which I think is good. I don't think that people would want to see just the best regular season team win the World Series every year. I think that would be boring. I think the purpose of the playoffs is to be exciting. And what makes it exciting is the fact that 2 teams that may not be equal both have a chance to win. So I think there's nothing wrong with it.
What one team impressed you the most this year for the whole season?
It's probably the Giants. I mean, they were probably the team that was the farthest above expectations. And they won the most games in the major leagues. So I'm not really going out on a limb there. They had one of these years where everything they did worked. I don't know if they can repeat that, but to do it for one season is pretty incredible. A lot of kind of lesser known pitchers pitched great, and a lot of older position players came back and had better years than you would expect for them. And, they just had it all going. It was just a magical year for them.
It seems like the Giants general manager, Farhan Zaidi, doesn't have much baseball experience himself. Do you think there have been more general managers like him lately, and the abilities required for general manager position in baseball has changed?
Yeah,
Talk about that.
That's definitely been something that's happened over probably the last 20 years, to where you see a lot more GMs who have more of a traditional education in terms of business or math or that kind of thing, as opposed to just having been former baseball players. So, there's some combinations like David Forst of the Oakland A's. He went to Harvard, but he played baseball at Harvard. So he's kind of a combination of both of those. I think probably more often than not, the GM nowadays is somebody who did not play baseball at a very high level, but is just a very smart guy or woman with the Marlins, as we see, who knows how to make decisions and hire the right people.
Hey, viewers, please let us know your thoughts about this year's playoffs in the comment section below. We'd love to know what you think. Now that the World Series is over, what are some key dates and what's expected to happen?
The first thing is free agency opens up. Well, actually, for the Angels, the first thing is November 7th. They have to make a decision if they're going to make a qualifying offer to Raisel Iglesias. It's really to all their free agents, but Iglesias is the one that's the biggest question. And what that means is if they make him a qualifying offer, it means they're basically offering him a 1-year, $18 million contract. If he rejects it, it means that the Angels would get a draft pick as compensation if he signs with another team. Now, if he rejects it, the Angels can still sign him for any amount they want, and he can still sign with any other team. That just kind of gives the Angels some compensation. The risk for the Angels to that is if he accepts it, that's a pretty high price to pay for a reliever. So that could kind of hamstring their budget for 1 year if he does accept it. So that's kind of the risk on the Angels' part. The risk on his part of accepting that is that he could have a bad year, get hurt, and then he's a free agent again next year, and he would not get the same contract he would have if he would have just this year taken like a multi-year deal for $50 million or $40 million over 3 or 4 years. So that's going to be an interesting decision. That's November 7th. And November 8th, that's when teams can all start signing free agents from other teams.
Tell us about the labor negotiations and a possible lockout that's talked about.
The collective bargaining agreement basically sets all of the rules between the players and the owners as far as, what guys get paid, how they can be moved on the roster to the minor leagues and the major leagues, all their working conditions, what kind of hotel rooms they get, everything. Every maybe 5 years or so, the current CBA expires and they have to renegotiate a new one. So that's the opportunity for the sides to do, get changes that they think the game needs. One thing that everybody talks about is the designated hitter. Right now, there's only the DH in the American League. And I think there's a lot of people that assume that part of the new CBA is going to be putting the designated hitter into the National League. Another thing that people talk about is service time manipulation, which basically means keeping a guy in the minor leagues when he shouldn't be, so you can control his rights for a year longer than you would have. So that's another thing that the players are probably going to want to have some loophole closed in the CBA, so teams cannot do that. So all these kind of things, and there's 100 more, are the sort of things that they're negotiating as we speak. I don't think anybody really knows too much about what's going on with the negotiations, which is a good thing. I don't think it's productive for them to be negotiating in the press as much as a member of the press. I like for the information to get out. I think it's probably not good for them. So the fact that we're not hearing anything, is some kind of good indication that they are talking to each other and, hopefully getting a lot of things done. We've had 4 or 5 new collective bargaining agreements negotiated since the last time there was a work stoppage, which I think is a good sign that both the players and the owners realize that it's not in either of their best interests to have any kind of work stoppage, and they should just find a way to bridge their differences and reach compromises on everything. I think that over the last year or so, the atmosphere has changed a little bit, and there's some more distrust between the two sides. So I think it's probably more likely that we have a work stoppage than it has been in a couple decades. But hopefully they will still figure out a way to get past it. And the good thing is it's still the winter. So even if, the CBA expires December 1st, even if after December 1st, they don't have an agreement and there's some kind of lockout or freeze of transactions, we're still not going to lose any actual baseball games until it gets into spring training. That's when it would start to be a problem. So, if in March they still don't have an agreement, they still have a lockout, then you're going to start missing games of the season. But if the lockout goes from like December 1st to January 12th or something like that, there's probably still time for them to get all their business done and have the season start as normal.
You mentioned distrust between the owners and the players. Tell me why that's been the case lately.
A lot of the problems occurred basically during the pandemic. I think a lot of players felt that the owners weren't really interested in playing that many games, because there could be no fans. So they're going to lose a lot of money. So they didn't want to pay the players their normal salaries to play these games in empty stadiums. And that's probably the largest single thing that sort of pushed the sides apart.
Do you think there's going to be umpire robots that would call strikes and balls?
I think that's going to happen eventually. I don't think it's going to happen in 2022. I think we probably are not quite ready for that technology-wise, and I think there needs to be a little more experimentation with it. I think you could possibly see something in the CBA that sets that up for the future, that basically says, we're going to use it in the minor leagues in 2022, and it's going to come to the major leagues in 2024, something like that.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any future videos. You can also watch our past videos from the description below. Hope to see you again next time.